I think I finally figured out what makes an anime villain unforgettable. And surprisingly, I don't think it's power. Obviously, being ridiculously strong helps. I'm not going to sit here and pretend watching somebody completely dominate a fight is entertaining. It is. But when I think about the villains I still remember years later, I don't just remember how strong they were. I remember how I felt when they showed up. I sat up, I got nervous, sometimes I got excited, sometimes I immediately thought, oh, somebody's about to have a very bad day. Because something about the entire scene changed, and I think that's the word I've been looking for: presence. Power can make me fear a villain, presence makes me remember them. And the best villains don't just threaten the hero, they change the atmosphere of the story. A great villain can enter a scene and immediately make me pay more attention. They don't even have to fight yet. Sometimes they barely have to say anything, but something shifts. Maybe it's fear, and maybe it's tension. Maybe I'm wondering what they know that everybody else doesn't. And sometimes I desperately want the hero to win, but I'm also kind of happy the villain showed up because I know something interesting is about to happen. And I think Aizen is probably one of the clearest examples of that. Aizen is obviously extremely powerful, but honestly, even if Aizen wasn't one of the strongest characters in Bleach, I would still find that man intimidating because his presence starts way before he throws a punch. He's calm, almost too calm. He constantly feels like he's several steps ahead of everybody else, and you never really know how much he already planned. Then you add Kyoka Shuigetsu on top of that, and now I can't even trust what I'm looking at. So when Aizen enters a situation, I'm not only thinking, can anybody beat him? I'm thinking, did he already expect this? Did he plan this? Are we even seeing what we think we're seeing? His strength amplifies his presence, it doesn't create it. Aizen represents control, and whenever he's around, I start questioning how much control anybody else actually has. Then you have Pain, who gives me something completely different. Pain has conviction. This is somebody who genuinely believes in what he's saying. His worldview came from suffering, and he reached this conclusion that people will never truly understand peace until they understand pain. Do I agree with him? No, but I understand why he believes it, and I think that matters. A great villain doesn't necessarily have to convince me they're right. They just have to make me understand why they think they're right. Because then they stop feeling like somebody who is evil just because the story needed a bad guy. And when Pain arrives in Konoha, the entire atmosphere of Naruto changes. Everything feels heavier. He feels almost inevitable. That's presence too. And then Shigaraki proves that a villain doesn't even have to start with that kind of presence. Early Shigaraki is chaotic, immature, unstable. He does not walk into My Hero Academia feeling like Aizen. But we watch him become the threat. We see the trauma underneath him. We see All For One's manipulation. We watch his ideology develop and his power become more terrifying. And by season 6, that man is a problem. When decay reaches the point where it can spread across massive areas, obviously the power itself is insane. But what made it hit for me wasn't just, wow, Shigaraki got stronger. It was, oh, this is what they've been building him into. So presence can be immediate like Aizen, or you can watch somebody grow into it like Shigaraki. Both will work. And then there's Doflamingo, completely different creature. This man is flamboyant, cruel, confident, charismatic. He walks weird. His laugh is ridiculous. His outfit is ridiculous. And somehow, every single time he's on screen, he owns it. Doflamingo looks like he is having fun being terrible, and that personality gives his cruelty an identity. You could give somebody else some of his exact actions and it would not feel the same. Because sometimes a villain is memorable simply because nobody else could enter that scene and create that exact energy. And once I started thinking about it this way, I realized how many villains do this completely differently. Muzan gives me authority. When Muzan walks into a room, the energy is basically, everybody better shut the hell up. Sukuna gives that feeling of everybody around this man is suddenly less safe. Blackbeard gives me unpredictability. He can be funny, cowardly, disgusting, ambitious, and absolutely terrifying. And sometimes I hate watching that man succeed, which honestly means he's doing his job. Akaza gives me intensity. He genuinely gets excited when he finds somebody strong enough to challenge him. And then someone like Ulquiorra can create presence by barely doing anything. He's quiet, detached, almost empty, yet I still want to understand what is happening inside him. None of these villains create the same feeling, and that's the point. Because presence isn't one personality type, it's what happens when a character has enough conviction, charisma, intelligence, unpredictability, personality. Whatever their thing is, that story feels different when they arrive. And I think that's why being extremely powerful by itself just isn't enough for me. Give me an 8 out of 10 powerful villain with incredible presence over a 10 out of 10 powerhouse who gives me absolutely nothing else. Every time. Because years later, I might forget exactly how strong somebody was. I might forget every attack they used, but I remember how they made me feel. Aizen made me question everything. Pain made the entire world feel heavier. Shigaraki made me nervous because I watched him become the threat. Doflamingo could walk into a room smiling and immediately own the scene. That's presence. And honestly, I think that's what makes a great anime villain. Power can make me fear them, but presence, that's what makes me remember them. But until next time, stay safe and stay spirited.